the Mustang GT Turbo. Today, among the masses, it's as good as forgotten, even in a crowd of torque-deprived V8s from the same decade. So what do you think? Have I uncovered a diamond in the rough, or am I about to be wildly disappointed? It's got an electronic fuel door release, but manual seats. What an interesting time. Let's go for a drive. Ooh, that shifter is nice. It's got some notch to it. There is zero clutch feel, almost zero clutch feel, very light. I've driven one Fox body, 5.0 Fox, drift car, but here today we've got the original Turbo Mustang. This is a car that I really had no idea existed. Ford came out with a turbocharged 4-cylinder Mustang, non-intercooled, carbureted, and it did not do well. It did so awful, actually, that Ford axed it for, I believe, 2 or 3 model years until this 1984 Mustang GT Turbo. This is the one you want. Then, of course, later, it evolved into the SVO, which is kind of the final iteration of the 80s 4-cylinder turbo Mustang. Very strange time. It's a 2.3. It is the predecessor to the EcoBoost we saw, of course, like 20 years after this in 2015. And, you know, you tell me, is a modern EcoBoost worth the drive? I'm not sure. Is this one worth the drive? Of course. It's a hilarious 80s car. And so far, it drives pretty smooth. Lots of noise coming from the soft top. This one is a convertible. Light steering. I can hear the turbo. Okay, there's boost. And a light flashed on the left side. What is that? Turbo on. A big green light. The turbo is on. This is such an 80s thing. Any turbo car I've driven from the 80s has a turbo light. They all do. They either have shift lights or turbo lights or both. But of course, this wasn't in a period of time. Like, Ford was not building a turbocharged 4-cylinder because it was the ultimate performance solution. It was because they had to. The oil crisis and the emissions crisis, of course, of the late 70s running into the 80s ruined muscle cars. It ruined the Mustang for a few years. They actually, at this time, also downsized the displacement of the 5.0, and the 5.0 was not available for a number of years. So this was a necessity. So they tried to make some numbers out of it, some respectable numbers, and for the time, 145 horsepower here, probably a bit more torque. I'm not sure, maybe 170, 180 pound-feet. I'm not too sure. It has a turbo shove. It actually has a turbo shove. That I was not expecting. My only goal for today is to make it back in one piece with this vehicle. Having a non-intercooled turbo engine freaks me out. That does not sit well with me at all. But we've got adequate gauges. We've got our never mind, our temp gauge does not work. Our coolant temp gauge does not work, but our oil temp does. So that's good. Fuel gauge works, speedo does not.
Hi, my name is Quentin. This is my 1984 Mustang. So this was originally actually my grandma's car. She bought it back in the 90s and she just daily drove it. And you know what, after a while, once she retired, she bought a Tacoma and just left it sitting in the garage, and I so happened to stumble upon it, and yeah, so this was originally a Palm Springs car. My grandma just came upon it on an ad and bought it. He only had it for 6 years, and then it was shipped up to Canada. So the paint color is not original anymore. When my grandma built the shop in the back, my grandpa actually sanded down the car and repainted it. But it's still the factory color paint, which is nice, but just because it was getting faded. he decided to take it upon himself to, you know, clean up the car for my grandma, which was really nice. And I've just been basically maintaining it ever since. You know what? The car is really good. I barely have any issues with it. I've actually driven this car more than my other vehicle, which is a GTI. And I've had less problems with this car than the GTI, which is hilarious considering that this is, you know, an 80s car, and the car, my GTI is like only like 10 years old right now.
That doesn't surprise me, to be honest, at all.
It's a great car. I really enjoy it.
Turbo spools about 3,000, and we do have, of course, as a byproduct of just being a 4-cylinder, a higher red line here than a V8 Mustang. 6,000 RPM. 6,000 RPM. And actually at the time, Chairman, Chief President, I believe it was the president of Ford, was quoted in an article stating that this was Ford's best attempt in the American market to make a higher revving, smaller displacement GT car, Grand Touring car. And that's a very important distinction here. A lot of people get the Mustang wrong when they look back, because now the Mustang is a world-class sports car. I mean, the GT500 is competing with supercars or at least, you know, the 911 in terms of lap times and performance and all that. But at the time, it was still a muscle car, GT car, and this was kind of around the time when Ford was trying to, at least, turn it into more of a performer. But that distinction is very important here. Sloppy steering, lots of body roll, 14-inch wheels, lots of sidewall flex, and a car that requires a little bit of finesse. Even on that just casual long sweeper, really leaning into the suspension and the tires. God, I love the way this thing shifts. This shifts honestly a lot better than many VWs and BMWs I've driven. Heel towing's a little bit awkward. The brake pedal's way higher than the gas pedal. They kind of do a little step. Like the clutch pedal's way up here, then the brake pedal's down here, then the gas pedal's like way deep into the footwell. Is there confidence in the brakes? No. It's not that slow.
It gets really hot. Like, it gets to the point where, like, sometimes I'll have to sit down on the side of the road and actually like wait for it to cool. One of the main issues with these GT turbos is they used to have a really thin radiator on the car and a really small fan, which caused it to overheat a lot. So a while ago, my grandma decided to upgrade the rad and get an electric fan, a 5-blade fan, and it seems to actually help with the cooling issue, which is really nice. Sometimes it actually overcools now. But you know what, I just switch off the fan because it's just on a switch, which is really nice.
Can you show us some of the records? I know you brought like a lot of these.
Yeah,
the
sure.
Original records, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, my grandma always kept a bunch of these records. Like these were some of hers when she got the vehicle appraised.
Wow.
And these are from 2002. But the guy took a bunch of these photos of the actual vehicle.
Oh yeah. Do you know what it was appraised at the time?
Let's see.
That was probably, I'm gonna guess, at the lowest of its depreciation curve.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's gone up since then, but.
About 7,500.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably like 10K in today's dollars.
Yeah, it was
maybe?
like $11,300 something now.
Okay, yeah.
Which is, yeah.
Buckle up. Oh yeah, of course, because seatbelts are like relatively new.
But it's hilarious because it's even on the windows because it's original glass as well.
Oh,
so they have it everywhere, which is hilarious.
Get it together. That's kind of a clever slogan, I guess.
Right?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Got a bunch.
Oh yeah, there's the official newsletter of the Mustang SVO's Owner Association.
Yeah, she tried to get into that as well. She has a bunch of other ones. She's even got a bunch of the books. Like I've got like this whole thing right here, this whole chunk is just basically just receipts of her, you know, maintaining the vehicle.
Wow.
But yeah, like there's this one. This is the one I was looking for that she had, of just, you know, the SVO team itself.
That is cool.
It's basically really 90s with, you know, the car design and being a half open. But yeah, no, she collected anything SVO. So
that's cool. She was into it.
Yeah, she was really into it, it was awesome to see, because now that, you know, she's passed the car down to me, now I have all the information and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't have it right now on me, but I have an actual book specifically just for the motor, and it's got all the parts and all the part numbers for it. It's got, you know, how to rebuild it, like what your turbo should be running and all that kind of stuff. But it's really nice to have that just in the back, so then like if I ever do need to work on the car, I have that information rather than going online.
It's awesome. Well, thanks for bringing it out, man.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, as we pass a Z28, gorgeous blue color too. See, he looked at the car. That's the only kind of person that's gonna stop and look at a Mustang GT Turbo. So 80s though, super cool. Original radio. These seats remind me of my 91 Grand Marquis that I had. Incredibly cushy, comfortable. I mean, it's roomy in here. It does not feel safe. There's no airbags. Hideous two-spoke steering wheel. This steering wheel ruins the interior for me. It does match the sloppy steering. Sloppy until you kind of get into the corner. It's sloppy on center. There's so much roll here, but actually kind of decent when you get into the corner. But you know, 90s cars can go either way. They can, and early 2000s, they can kind of be cheesy and stupid and just overly plasticky, or they can be really cool. 80s cars generally are just cool. Now, yes, the later SVO Fox body did get an intercooler, and it made quite a bit more horsepower. I believe about 175 horsepower versus 145 here. This is, of course, fuel injected. So when they brought it back, they came back with fuel injection, and that's what makes this vehicle able to be driven every day. You know, Quentin dailies this car, or did for a number of months. I would take this on a road trip. I would have no problem driving this car 4+ hours in a day. No problem whatsoever. Cruise control, it doesn't work, but it still also has cruise control, which is cool. Tons of headroom, power windows. I mean, the seatbelt kind of works. For all this marketing, yeah, it hasn't held up. Just treat it right, drive it smooth, and it will treat you right back. That's how you have to operate. It is interesting too, because like at the time, this wasn't too far off of what Nissan, for example, was putting out in Japan. I drove an R30 Skyline, Josh's R30 Skyline RS Turbo. Really cool car. Like kind of in that period where they didn't make the GTR, so that was kind of the quickest Skyline at the time. Rear wheel drive, turbo 4-cylinder, right? Very similar in power. This is actually a little bit quicker than that. This feels quicker than that, for sure. A little bit more updated steering and whatnot in this car. But then things got crazy. But then the roaring economy of the 80s rocketed out, just shoved out the R32 GTR in 89. The R32 GTR in 89, yeah, the Mustang of the same year holds nothing in comparison to that car. The gap between those two cars is so wild to think about. They were so close around this exact time, 1984, the R30 Skyline, and then by the end of the decade, Nissan had just launched into like a completely different stratosphere. Even if you look at the final, you know, like the best iteration, the final, best, most powerful Fox body in 93, which I believe was the Cobra, about 240 horsepower there. Still, the R32 GTR, way more power, way more tech, and in my opinion, better looking. The Mustang, this was kind of like, it was a kind of a weird hiccup, right? It was kind of a weird hiccup that didn't pay off, and it was followed by a 20-year break with no turbo Mustangs, no turbo 4-cylinder Mustangs, right? And then of course, anybody who wanted a base Mustang would just get the soulless V6 with all the life sucked out of it. So I always end up, somehow it always ends up coming back to the R32 GTR, but that's just how it is. And I think the context of this in comparison to what was happening in Japan at the time, ultimately just so fascinating if you're a performance enthusiast. So this has been the GT Turbo, a car that I never thought I would ever drive or be interested in. Very cool piece of history. Thanks, Quentin, for bringing it out. Thank you, Jonah, fellow friend of the show. We shot his S15 a while ago. Thanks for setting this up, Jonah. Appreciate that. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. You can subscribe if you haven't already. We've got lots of reviews and videos coming up. We'll see you soon.